if you time travel all the way back to 2007, Apple had a pretty poor product from the point of view of security, even from the point of view of being able to type well on it. I mean, even to this day, I make more typos on that model than any others. And they were chained at the hip to the worst network for 2 years. And it was things like, I remember there was some complaint about, well, if you held it a certain way, like the
That's
phone
right.
wouldn't transmit. Yeah, and Jobs' response was, well, don't hold it that way.
Right.
You know, it was sort of flew in the face of every notion of strategy. But what I try to tell people is, like, where you start is not where you're traveling to. And so we do all this analysis with this new thing, and then we put it on a shelf and we don't go back to it and say, how are they evolving?
Well, so, I would direct people to chapter 8 of the Wide Lens, which is, an analysis of how Apple got to be Apple. And the really interesting thing about the iPhone, right, which again, consistent with this notion of an MVE and carryover, is the iPhone starts off as the next generation iPod that comes with a phone. And by the way, the phone was optional, right?
Oh, right.
They launched the iPad, the iPod Touch.
Yep.
And if you wanted, you could get a Touch with a crappy phone, or you could get an iPod Touch and keep using your Motorola phone. It's totally up to you. But it was that allowed them entry into this totally different industry. And what's interesting about it is, today, right? So this is like the notion of ecosystem disruption. Kind of the Alexa story is a beautiful illustration of it. Is, for Alexa, there used to be 3 different industries. There used to be an industry for smart home hubs. And incumbents were trying to play in there: Philips, Johnson Controls, Microsoft, Apple, etc. There was a different market for speakers, and there was a different market for smart assistants. And what Alexa did was it collapsed those 3 into this new thing. So if I came to you today and said, "Oh, I want funding for a smart home hub that is only a smart home hub," you'd be like, "That doesn't make any sense."
Right.
Right? Just like with the iPhone, right? We used to have a market for MP3 players, very competitive. And we used to have a market for phones, smartphones, very competitive. And then it was combined into this new thing, and those 2 industries disappeared essentially as standalone entities. That was another example of an ecosystem disruption, right? And making a better MP3 player was not going to protect you from this kind of disruption.
Absolutely right. And so I derailed you on the Alexa story, because the one I think is so fascinating is how they came to be like spec'd into other people's products.
Yeah, right. So they open up to developers, and then once they have the developers in place, and again, there's a clear time lag. There's a clear strategy here. It's only then that they open up APIs that allow Alexa to interact with other people's hardware. Right. And so essentially, they're going to the companies that were trying to be smart home hubs and saying, "Hey, I'm sure your hubs are wonderful. Your products are great. No one's buying them. I don't know why. But if you'd like, since you have these devices, you can have them interact with our platform." And so in this 4th phase, what happens is you could now talk to your Echo speaker and have it control the lights. And then the next stage after that, which was really the hope from the very beginning, was they launched Alexa Inside, which was, now you don't need the Echo speaker. For $7, you can buy a chipset and put it into the light switch, so you can talk, the user can talk to the light switch rather than the speaker, and speaking into the speaker to speak to the light switch. And it's through this mode that they really, out of nowhere, think about how unlikely it is that they become the lead player in this whole new world of ambient computing, right? Voice-based controls that are now, being placed into cars. They're trying to move into healthcare, into enterprise. And the point of this is not so much like, wow, how do you have that vision? The way you have that vision is you watch Star Trek in 1960. and the notion of being able to speak to a computer and have it control your environment, that's, Hollywood has spent billions of dollars showing the use case for that. The question is, how do you build your way there? And that's right. So again, you can't confuse vision and strategy. And strategy in an ecosystem is, how do you bring the pieces together to get to that vision. The vision is not as unique as we tend to think it is.